Hello people, it's the Secret Anime Fan and today's video is a video on T-Bone, and this video will cover his story and act as an overview of his character and hopefully educate some of you. If you're not familiar with One Piece, you can expect things like his story, obviously, but I cover things like his abilities, some speculations here and there, and his personality. That's the four major things I do in his character videos. Now, even if you are familiar with One Piece, then you may still like revisiting this character with me, so let's get started. Now, just briefly, I may alter or phrase some things for people who have not seen One Piece to avoid any kind of spoilers. I won't do it too much, just little small details here and there. For those who are already in the know, will probably be able to spot when I do this, and if you do, then props, because you know your One Piece very well. Now, I'm expecting you, the viewer, to at least be a little bit familiar with One Piece crew, or else this will be a tough video to make. Still, I will do my best to keep the names hidden if I can so do so. Now, I am thinking of doing like spoiler editions and non-spoiler editions in the future videos. If anyone cares to let me know if they'd be interested in that. And also I'd like to know, do you think most people in the anime community are already aware of the Straw Hat Pirates, if not by name, at least by appearance? Nevertheless, let's get underway. Okay, let's get his appearance out of the way. To say he looks weird is an understatement, or should I say unique. I don't want to go too in depth because he is shown on screen, but I will just share my thoughts. Obviously, he has a weird skeletal face, but as you can see, he's a bit chubby as well, as like bit of a beer belly, and he's kind of skinnyish arms with veiny arms, kind of muscly. Despite that, though, I like his character design. He's not your bog standard looking marine. He also has the air of a knight about him, with his armor and sword. Anyway, that's enough of that. Let's move on. Let me know what you think of his appearance in the comment section. Okay, let's move on to his history and story. Now, there's not much known about T-Bone before his time in the Marines, but we do know he was a royal knight, which explains his knight attire. Now, the country he served is unknown, which is disappointing, but if he was a royal knight, he may have been under the service of celestial dragons, but that's unlikely, as celestial dragons live in Mary-Geoise. And if you look at the kind of armor they wear, the knights that Mary-Geoise wear, they don't look like T-Bone's armor. For those not in the know, celestial dragons are basically the top royal families. They descend from the 19 of the 20 kings who established the world government. And Mary-Geoise is like the Holy Land and the capital of the world government. They live on top of the Red Line, which is basically a big ass mountain that goes around the world. I know that's a lot to take in, but yeah, just go watch One Piece, I suppose. Now, he could have been from one of the lesser royal family kings, or families even, yeah. Perhaps maybe Drum Kingdom or Dressrosa, or perhaps even Alabasta, who knows. Talking about royal families though, T-Bone was seen in the Reverie arc, or perhaps now I should call it by its newly translated name, the Leveille arc. I still prefer the Reverie arc, which is basically the meeting between the royal leaders of the world. Anyway, that takes place in Mary-Geoise, that I just mentioned what that was earlier. He was seen talking to Admiral Akainu, talking about how one of the Marine admirals had made an appearance in Mary-Geoise after failing a mission. After Akainu said, "Don't return to a Marine base until you complete your mission," the Admiral quite craftily told T-Bone, technically, Mary-Geoise is not a Marine base. Thus, T-Bone passed it on to Akainu, who was just a tiny little bit pissed off. Now, I'm thinking that T-Bone may just well be a previous Alabasta Royal Knight. If you look at the clothes, they look very similar to T-Bone. If you look at the Royal Knights from Alabasta, they look very similar to T-Bone. Let's take and I'm probably going to butcher this name, the Sumageri Guards. The ones who took the water in Alabasta, for those who have forgotten, or if you want a reference. So maybe just perhaps he was a former Alabasta Knight, or at the bare minimum, I think we can narrow down the country down to a hot country, as each royal army usually has armor reflecting their climate. The main point to T-Bone's story is in, I'm transitioning, I don't really do good transitions, but now we're transitioning to the story. The main point of T-Bone's story is in Water 7 story arc, and his appearance made him a fan favorite. Well, maybe not a fan favorite, but he definitely is a well respected and loved by the fans of the One Piece story. A lot of that comes from his personality, but I will discuss that later. T-Bone is seen in episode 255, just briefly, mind you, where he's alerted by the sound of Sanji and Co. I'm gonna leave out their names because it kind of spoilerish. But his story expands over the next few episodes. T-Bone was on the Puffing Tom, which is basically a train that runs on water. I don't mean it runs on water, I mean it goes on top of water. Wait, what, on water? Yeah, surprisingly enough, a train that runs on top of water. Okay, it still has train tracks, but it's very weird. I'll put a picture on screen so you can look at that, and hopefully that's clear enough. He had the duty of protecting a carriage on the Puffing Tom, while CP9 were escorting a couple of well sought after prisoners to Enies lobby. Just to briefly explain, CP9 is part of a Cypherpol in One Piece, and they act as an intelligence agency. They also act as like a secret agency who do investigations, assassinations, and espionage for the world government. And Enies lobby is basically the headquarters, or to put it another way, the judicial headquarters of the world government. There's also a courthouse there, and many government officials live there. I think they had at least 10,000 workers stationed at Enies lobby. But back to T-Bone's story. He was in the 5th carriage of the Puffing Tom, but he wasn't alone. He had about 40 subordinates with him. More on them in a second. They play quite a big role or part in T-Bone's character. I'm going to skip over a tiny bit of story here, as it better suits his personality segment. So yeah, T-Bone is alerted that the occupants of the 6th and 7th carriage were defeated, and some of their prisoners had escaped. We see T-Bone and his men decide to go to cart 7, and of course he must have went to cart 6 or through cart 6 in order to treat the wounds of both cart occupants. It must be noted he chose not to pursue Sanji but to treat the wounded. He did though order for all the remaining carts, that is 5 to 1, to be alerted of the situation, that the prisoners have escaped, and also that a possible intruder freed them. Now, if you have yet to see this train segment or train bit of One Piece, you should give it a go. It definitely has some funny characters in the train. They basically have to go through each segment of the train carriage, kind of, and it has some interesting characters. It's pretty decent. I don't if I don't say so myself. Anyway, although some characters may come across annoying, but yeah. So we see T-Bone respond to Sanji and 2 others who open the door to tease T-Bone and his men before closing the door again. T-Bone and his men, who were just moments ago earlier wondering where they had escaped to, were certainly confused, if not confused, at the least surprised, and they were eager to chase after them. Of course, this was all a trap after his men were having trouble opening the door, which had been sealed on the other side. T-Bone, like the badass he is, slashes the door with ease, using his right angle flash bone sky division attack. This is one of his techniques. This attack actually has different names depending on the situation, but more on that in my ability segment coming up soon. I actually meant to say translation, not the other thing I just said. So T-Bone decided to pursue Sanji onto the rooftop of the train, only to realise they had been caught in a trap, like Yu-Gi-Oh! Setting down them trap cards. You just been caught in a trap. You just activated my trap card. Really realising this though, T-Bone ordered his men to quickly move carts, but to no avail. Sanji detached the cart, leaving the 6th and 7th cart, and the 6th and 7th cart behind, with T-Bone and his men left behind as well. So we later on see T-Bone running along the train tracks whilst there's a crazy storm. I think the storm was called Aqua Lagoon, and it happens every year. It's just a crazy storm. And yeah, he was running along the tracks while that was going on, and he even had the time to cut a Sea King, and a big Sea King at that. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be for T-Bone. He would encounter Zoro. How did Zoro get to where T-Bone was? I suppose I can say, because I have to show it on screen anyway. I'll show it on screen and you can deduce how they caught up with each other. But yeah, watch the anime for a full overview of how the two encountered each other. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. I have more videos like this on my channel. I plan to make more and expand it into other anime. If you have an anime you want me to do a character story on, let me know in the comment section. As long as it's like similar to One Piece and things like that. I also do manga reviews on my channel. I do One Piece, My Hero Academia, The Promised Neverland so far. I may do One Punch Man in the future and other manga. I also do anime theories. Make sure you like and subscribe, and see ya!